Aquaman, Aquaman does whatever a aqua... that doesn't work. So, DC's last go this year. Actually, it's their only movie that came out this year, I think. In theaters, anyways. So, yeah. Aquaman. I went into this with pretty low expectations. It's not like something with, like Batman v Superman or even Justice League, where I saw the trailers and was like, this looks bad. It was more of a case of I saw the trailers and I went, could be fun. So that's kind of all I expected. I expected it to be fun, an enjoyable way to kill a couple of hours, and going in with those expectations, yeah, it was fun. It's it's not great, but it's certainly like I'm just relieved at a DC movie just being willing to be fun, because honestly, being fun covers a lot of sins. Because I mean, like, you get something like Batman v Superman and it takes itself so seriously. Now, if something takes itself super seriously and it works, awesome. If it takes itself super seriously and it doesn't work, that's an extra level of pain. So if something is aiming to be fun, even if, like, on paper I can go, that's a problem, that doesn't work, this is unnecessary, there's too much of this, I want more of that. But if I still had fun, like, something went right. So, what works here? Well, honestly, Jason Momoa. I do like this Aquaman. I think this is probably the best performance he's given as his Aquaman. It's only the second performance he's given as this Aquaman, because I'm not going to count the cameo in BVS, but he's good. He's got a real great presence and charisma, and I like the rough and tumble edge that they're going for. It feels right, while at the same time he does have that sense of heroism to him. I really appreciate that, as much as this is tackling one of the more grand kind of epic scale Aquaman stories, that it doesn't lose sight of the fact that he is a hero, and that basically the first thing we see Aquaman doing, outside of an opening flashback, is rescuing people. And even midway through the movie, in an Act 2 fight where there are civilians around, he's rescuing people. We never lose sight of that element of him, and that's good, because if we don't either feel for him or root for him as a hero, then it would be really easy to lose sight of why do we care about this conflict at all, because it's a guy we don't like trying to depose another guy who we like even less. So, thankfully, it keeps all that in line. So all that works pretty well. Mera feels a bit underdeveloped as a character, but Amber Heard plays her well, and has pretty decent chemistry with Momoa. Honestly, I get more of a buddy chemistry than a romantic chemistry with them. So when it inevitably went there, which I knew it was going to, because I mean they're married in the comics, or have been. I can't keep track of what actually is the case anymore in anything, but historically they've been married. So I knew that was going to happen anyway, but it still kind of irritated me, and also the ridiculousness of the specific moment when they kissed also was a little like, really? But no, she plays it solid. The rest of the cast is fine. Black Manta's pretty good. Orm is decent. He's not a character I really like, so I guess that means that Patrick Wilson did a pretty good job. Nicole Kidman is just kind of there, but, she's not completely phoning it in, so that works. I forget the guy's name, so apologies there, but the guy who was Jango Fett in the prequels playing Aquaman's dad, he's pretty good. And then we've got, all the other people kind of scattered throughout, like Dolph Lundgren and Willem Dafoe, who are fine. They feel a little too good for the parts they're given, but they work, and they're putting the effort in, and it's all fine. Visually, it's pretty. The effects aren't always convincing or realistic, but they're usually pretty, and they're usually nice to look at, and they're usually pretty well designed in some cases. There's a really nice variety to the action, especially because we get some real brawling, knockdown, drag-out fights. We get the battles between Arthur and Orm, the Trident fights, which feel much more like superhero smackdowns. And then, we've got grander scale battles. We've got some legit kaiju style action going on here. So that's kind of cool. It's a pretty good mix. But overall, it is that element of fun that keeps the whole thing chugging along through the fact that, honestly, it's kind of bloated. It's probably about a half hour longer than it should be, and I could, off the top of my head, think of 15 minutes that you could cut easy. Most of it, the expositional flashback stuff, because we don't really gain much benefit from the opening flashback, or really anytime we saw Arthur as a younger person than the adult. Like, especially, oh god, the bits we get of teenage Arthur being trained by Willem Dafoe, that teenage actor was not good. But even setting that aside, those scenes don't add much. That sort of the problem is that this film is doing a lot, and it's probably doing a little bit too much, because it is through flashbacks covering Aquaman's origin, and in relation to that, the nature of his parents' relationship, has to talk about Atlantis, the entire political dynamic of Atlantis, the other characters from Atlantis and all their individual motivations, Black Manta, a treasure hunt, a battle for the throne. It's doing a lot, and it has to lay a lot of groundwork for it to move ahead to where it is. And part of me, I'm kind of torn. I find myself going back on this, because I remember back and forth on this, because I remember while I was watching it thinking, I kind of wish that the only villain we were dealing with was Black Manta. And it's not that Ocean Master is bad, it's just that I felt that Black Manta was better introduced, better characterized, and better motivated for what he was doing than Orm was. Because Orm, his goals are a little bit too grand and nebulous at the same time. So, like, Black Manta, he comes into conflict with Aquaman because he's a pirate. That's like his family legacy and his family business. And so he's committing violent crime on the high seas. That gets Aquaman's attention. That's why they butt heads. Then, as a result of what happens, he blames Aquaman for the death of somebody he cares about. So now we've got a revenge motive for him to go after Aquaman. Cool. Follow all of it. Make perfect sense. Orm, on the other hand, is doing all this stuff he's doing to unite the kingdoms, to wage war on the surface world because, I mean, like, they say why. Like, he talks about all the damage the surface world has done, but, like, what? Why now? What is the catalyst for him deciding that now is when he has to push it into a full-on war with the surface? He's just kind of doing it because he's the bad guy, and that's what he has to do. Again, Orm isn't awful, but, like, comparatively, I thought Black Manta was a much better villain, and Black Manta's kind of treated a bit more as a henchman here and doesn't get nearly as much screen time. Oh, also, Black Manta, between the way he shot and everything else, way more intimidating as a threat than Orm was. But even though part of me was going, I kind of wish this was only dealing with Black Manta, I do understand why they brought in all the other stuff, because, well, okay, so in a time when we could be assured that this was gonna get a sequel, and at this point it almost definitely will. It's making really good money. It's basically making the money that a Star Wars movie would have made if it was released in December, like it should have been, you friggin' morons. But anyways, it's taken, that the blockbuster in December spot that Star Wars had the last couple of years. So it's making good money, probably will get a sequel, but that wasn't a guarantee. Because, looking at what happened with Batman v Superman, with Justice League, there was no guarantee they were going to get another crack at this. So I don't blame them for not going, okay, look, we can't do a build. We can't like start with Black Manta and only do that and then set up the Throne of Atlantis stuff, because what if we never get a chance to do that? And that's what a lot of people are really going to want to see. And that's true. So I find myself torn on the question of whether or not they should have been tackling all this at once. I suppose maybe they could have cut Black Manta, except I really liked Black Manta. I don't know. It just kind of is what it is on that level. And like I said, it just adds to a slightly bloated film. I remember checking my watch towards the tail end, not because I was bored, just because I was like, man, this thing's still going, and it keeps throwing additional sort of complications and set pieces after it feels like, boy, that was the big triumphant moment. Nope, okay, we're not done. All right. And I didn't necessarily get burned out or bored by it. It just keeps going. But yeah, overall it was good. It was fun. And that's kind of it. Like, I don't have a lot more to say other than that. That's what it is at the end of the day. It was a fun time at the movies. I don't feel the need to see it again. I'm definitely not going to see it in the theater again. It's the sort of thing that, like, I wouldn't say no if someone was like, hey, I've never seen that. How do you feel about watching that? I know you've seen it before. I'd probably shrug and go, yeah, sure, why not? But I'm not sure I'll ever go out of my way to see it again, but I'm glad that I saw it the once. There you go. Take that for whatever it's worth. So, Aquaman, have you seen it? What'd you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. A whole bunch of stuff to do, because there's buttons and links and all this other stuff. Oh, and by the way, I know that the new Black Mirror thing comes out today, the day that this goes up. I am going to deal with that, but like, that's going to be a time commitment for me to get all the way through. So don't pester me about that. Anyway, coming back to this, whatever your thoughts are, down in the comments, let's talk about it. Whole other bunch of stuff to do. Buttons, links, link to the Patreon. If you want to support me and this channel, that would be fantastic. If you don't, there's other links to check out. Don't want to click them? That's fine too, because at the end of the day, you're the council. I just run the meetings, and until next time, this council is adjourned.